On Thanksgiving Day, two girls mysteriously disappeared. The police quickly identified a suspect, a suspicious man driving an RV wandering nearby. The police immediately brought him to the station for questioning, but the man appeared confused and innocent, as if he didn't understand the police's questions at all. After testing, his IQ was found to be only that of a 10-year-old child. Moreover, no traces related to the missing girls were found inside his RV. Could a person with a severe intellectual disability carry out a kidnapping without anyone noticing? This film is one of the best-reviewed suspense movies produced by Hollywood in the past decade. Its final 30 seconds are often hailed as a quiet masterpiece. The movie was directed by Denis Villeneuve, who also made the gripping and disturbing film Incendies, which we have already recapped. The story takes place in a remote American small town. The male lead, Keller, has a happy family with both a son and a daughter. Keller dotes greatly on his young daughter, Anna. On Thanksgiving Day, Keller's family of four went to their neighbor's home for a gathering. The neighbors have two daughters. The younger daughter happens to be the same age as Anna. While the adults were busy cooking, the four children played outside. Anna was very curious about an RV parked by the roadside and was about to climb up the ladder when her brother stopped her. He told her it was rude behavior. As the four kids turned to walk away, it seemed that a pair of eyes inside the RV was secretly watching their departing backs. After lunch, the adults chatted on the second floor while the two older kids watched TV downstairs. Anna insisted on going home with her friends to find her lost red whistle. It was a small gift from her dad not long ago, which could be used to call for help in an emergency. Keller told Anna that no matter what danger she encountered, if she blew the whistle, he would come rushing to save her like a superhero. Worried that Anna was too young and it was unsafe to go out alone, Keller specifically told her to take her older brother and sister with her to search. However, a few hours later, when Keller went downstairs, he found the two older kids still watching TV. It turned out the two little girls had not taken his advice seriously and had secretly run out together and had not returned until now. Keller hurried home to look for them, but found the two children were not at his house at all. When he returned to the neighbor's house to explain the situation, his son suddenly remembered the RV. Could the playful little girls have gone inside the RV to play? Everyone rushed to the roadside to search, but the RV was nowhere to be found. Anxious, the two families searched everywhere nearby, but still couldn't find the two girls. They finally had to call the police. The police began focusing on the suspicious RV and soon confirmed that it was currently parked by the woods outside the town. Detective Loki, who was on duty nearby along with two patrol cars, quickly headed to the scene. Seeing the police approaching, the RV driver hurriedly drove away. In panic, the vehicle crashed into a tree and stopped. The police immediately searched the RV, but inside was only the driver, no one else. Detective Loki questioned the driver about where the two girls were hidden, but the man looked confused and said nothing. Loki had no choice but to bring him back to the police station for interrogation. The driver's name was Alex Jones, a young man who lived with his aunt. When questioned by the police, Alex denied having seen the two girls, claiming he was just out driving for fun. Loki naturally didn't believe this excuse. If he was just driving for fun, why did he panic and flee when he saw the police? However, faced with a series of questions, Alex acted as if he didn't understand at all and completely refused to cooperate. Detective Loki had no choice but to visit Alex's aunt's house to look for clues. The aunt told him that Alex's parents had died when he was young, and he was adopted by her and her husband. 5 years ago, after a big fight with her husband, he left home and never came back, leaving her and Alex to rely on each other. Alex has had an intellectual disability since childhood. He usually liked to drive the RV around, but he had never caused any trouble. After hearing this, Detective Loki looked disappointed. Could there be another suspect? After saying goodbye to Alex's aunt, Loki received news from colleagues at the forensic department. They had carefully inspected the RV and found no traces of the girls inside, not even a strand of hair or a fiber from their clothes. The colleagues reminded Loki that the suspect might have hidden the girls in the small woods where the RV was parked. However, Loki had already considered this possibility and sent a large police force to search the woods. They searched all night but found nothing. The two little girls had vanished without a trace. The next day, Loki went to Keller's house to update him on the case progress. So far, there was no evidence to prove that the RV driver, Alex, was the culprit. Moreover, police tests showed Alex's IQ was only about 10 years old. A person with such a severe intellectual disability could hardly successfully kidnap two children in broad daylight. According to local law, the police could only detain Alex for a maximum of 48 hours. This meant that if no evidence was found by the next day, he would have to be released. Keller could not accept this outcome. He firmly believed Alex was connected to the disappearance and asked Loki, if his IQ is only 10, how could he have passed the driver's test and be driving an RV around? Loki was at a loss for words because that was indeed a fact. Alex's IQ was 10, yet he had successfully passed his driving exam. After leaving Keller, Loki continued to investigate. He visited 9 people with criminal records in town, but it was a wasted effort. By the time he reached the last person, night had already fallen. The last person was a priest who was known to be a heavy drinker. His house had the lights on, but no one answered when Loki knocked. He looked through the window and saw the priest lying motionless on the floor. Loki hurriedly broke in and found the priest was just drunk and passed out. While looking around the house, Loki noticed the refrigerator had been moved. When he helped push it back, he unexpectedly discovered a cellar behind it. Inside the cellar was a male corpse. The body had been dead for so long it was shriveled and dehydrated, its original features unrecognizable. The only obvious mark was a maze-shaped pendant hanging from the corpse's neck. Loki immediately woke the priest and questioned him about the body. The priest, groggy and confused, explained he didn't know the man at all. 5 years ago, a man had come to him to confess. It seemed less like confession and more like a challenge to God. The man claimed to have committed 16 murders and boasted he would harm even more children. To stop the man from committing further crimes, the priest said he had tied him up and thrown him into the cellar, letting him starve to death. Loki clearly did not believe the priest's vague story, but instinctively felt that this case was unrelated to the current kidnapping. So he first took the priest back to the police station for further questioning and planned to investigate the mummified corpse later. The urgent priority remained, finding the 2 missing girls whose lives were unknown. However, before any new clues were found, the 48-hour detention limit for suspect Alex expired. Loki had no choice but to agree to release him. Unexpectedly, Keller arrived at the police station, blocking the entrance. The furious father rushed forward, knocked Alex to the ground, and frantically demanded to know where the girls were hidden. Police and media rushed to intervene and pull them apart. At that moment, Alex suddenly whispered a sentence.
They didn't cry until I left them.
What did you say?
Upon hearing it, Keller became even more certain that Alex was the culprit. He repeated Alex's words aloud, but the scene was too noisy and no one else heard it. Alex then looked innocent and said he hadn't said anything just now. Shortly after, the aunt took Alex back home. Meanwhile, Keller received a verbal warning from the police for assault. At this point, Keller was completely disappointed with the police and decided to search for his daughter himself. That very night, he went to Alex's house and quietly hid in the car outside, keeping watch. Around midnight, Alex went out to walk his dog. Keller saw with his own eyes how Alex, taking advantage of the deserted surroundings, hung the poor dog by its leash until the little creature nearly suffocated before finally letting go. After walking the dog, Alex started humming a nursery rhyme. At that moment, Keller was absolutely sure Alex was the kidnapper, because the tune Alex hummed was the version his daughter had rewritten the lyrics to. Keller immediately approached, pointed a gun at him, and forced him to say where the 2 children were hidden. But Alex still looked innocent and said nothing. Angrily, Keller tied him up and imprisoned him in his family's abandoned old house. The next day, Keller called on a neighbor, hoping they could help coerce a confession from Alex. They tried to force Alex to speak, but the neighbor urged Keller not to act rashly, warning that illegal detention is a crime and the case should be handled by the police. However, Keller's anger and worry had consumed all his reason. He raised his fist and punched Alex's face repeatedly. Alex was soon badly beaten and barely recognizable. But no matter how much Keller tried to force a confession, Alex refused to speak. If the beating continued, it might cause a fatal accident, so Keller had to stop temporarily. News of the 2 missing children quickly spread throughout the town. That night, kind neighbors gathered near the 2 families to pray for the children. Detective Loki also came. Using his keen police instincts, he noticed a suspicious man wearing a hood in the crowd. The hooded man looked nervous and sneaky. When their eyes met, the man became even more frightened and immediately ran away, clearly hiding something. Loki immediately chased after him, struggling in a scuffle, but the man eventually escaped. Back at the police station, Loki quickly had a sketch artist draw a portrait of the hooded man and issued a wanted notice on TV. Keller's neighbors saw the news and worried Keller had made a mistake. They again tried to persuade him to release Alex and let the police handle the case, but Keller insisted Alex was suspicious and that the wanted man might be working with Alex. By this time, Alex had already been imprisoned for 2 days. His aunt realized something was wrong and quickly reported it to the police. Meanwhile, Loki soon discovered the dog that had been run over and killed but couldn't find Alex, who had gone missing. The girl's disappearance case had no leads, and now a suspect had vanished as well. Loki felt a headache coming on. At that moment, he received a tip-off call. A female store clerk at a shopping mall recognized the hooded man from the wanted poster. The man often came to her shop to buy children's clothes, but the sizes and styles he bought were random, not like they were for his own kids. Loki instructed the clerk to notify him the next time the man came. With this important lead, Loki had hope. Meanwhile, Keller's side had made no progress. To avoid accidentally killing Alex in a fit of rage, Keller specially built a dark room to imprison him. The room was not only dim and gloomy, but could spray hot and cold water, using torture with temperature changes instead of beating. While Keller was trying every method to force a confession from Alex, the hooded man sneaked into Keller's house under the cover of night. Keller's wife Grace sensed the intrusion and was terrified, quickly calling the police. Loki rushed to the scene to take notes, but the man was long gone by then. Loki found nothing suspicious and even suspected Grace's anxiety was causing hallucinations. More curious than the supposed intruder was why Keller wasn't home so late at night. Thinking about the sudden disappearance of the suspect Alex, Loki quickly guessed that Keller was holding Alex captive. To confirm his suspicion, Loki secretly followed Keller the next day. But he was soon noticed, so Loki straightforwardly confronted Keller, asking if he was involved in Alex's disappearance. Keller exploded with anger, cursing Loki, who was left speechless and with an even worse headache.
You understand that? Me, not you! Not you, but me! Every day! All right. Now why didn't you look for my f***ing daughter? Hey.
Loki had to look for other breakthroughs. Back at the station, he checked internal records and found that Keller had an abandoned old house, inherited from his father. He immediately drove there to investigate. At that time, Keller was interrogating Alex at the old house. His harsh methods left Alex screaming, desperate for it to end. Finally, Alex spoke in a confused manner, saying he isn't Alex and just wanted to play a maze game. Keller demanded to know what that meant, but Alex went silent again. Just then, Keller noticed Loki arriving in pursuit. He hurriedly threatened Alex to keep quiet, then pretended to be asleep downstairs. Loki quickly entered, found Keller, and woke him up. Keller lied that he was drowning his sorrows in alcohol behind his wife's back and accidentally fell asleep there. Loki carefully searched every room. Just as he was about to discover the dark room, his phone suddenly rang. It was the children's clothing store clerk calling again. The hooded man was back buying children's clothes. Loki had to temporarily stop searching Keller's house. Using the license plate number the clerk provided, Loki found the hooded man's residence and easily broke in.
Do you have children? I don't have.
The place was very creepy. Maze patterns covered the walls. A pig's head lay in the kitchen sink. The bedroom was filled with huge boxes large enough to hold a child. Loki hurriedly pried open a box only to find blood-stained children's clothes and terrifying venomous snakes. After bringing the suspect back to the police station, Loki called the families to identify the clothes. The neighbors recognized their daughter's clothes, and Keller recognized his daughter's blood-stained socks. This seemed to indicate the two girls had met with harm. The hooded man, Bob Taylor, was clearly a prime suspect, but if the girls were dead, where were their bodies? Loki continued to interrogate Taylor, but he remained silent, only absorbed in drawing mazes. Loki became furious and beat him up badly. Two officers hurried over to stop the fight. Amid the chaos, Taylor grabbed a pistol and suddenly shot himself. Meanwhile, Keller still refused to believe his daughter were dead. After leaving the station, he returned to the old house to continue interrogating Alex. This time, Alex revealed more information. He claimed the girls were trapped inside a maze, and only by solving the maze could they escape. Since no more info could be squeezed from Alex, Keller had no choice but to visit Alex's Aunt Holly, hoping to get some clues about the maze from her. Keller pretended to apologize, saying he regretted losing his temper and hitting Alex outside the police station last time. The elderly woman, seeing his sincere attitude, chatted with him a bit. Alex's aunt told Keller that she and her husband were once devout believers. Every summer holiday, they would travel around with their son in an RV spreading the gospel. But later, their son fell ill and died, which was a huge blow to the couple. Keller took the opportunity to subtly ask about the maze.
I keep dreaming about being lost in a maze.
But the old lady showed no reaction and kept talking about what happened next. After their son's death, the couple adopted their orphaned nephew, Alex. Since her husband liked raising snakes, and Alex was naturally timid and quiet, he became terrified of the snakes, which led to his current dazed, foolish state. During the chat, Keller noticed a newspaper on the table and learned that the other suspect, Taylor, had died. The woman comforted Keller, suggesting Taylor might have committed suicide out of guilt, which was a good thing. Otherwise, he would have enjoyed several years of leisure in prison before facing the death penalty, which would be unfair to victims. While Keller was shocked by Taylor's death, Loki was throwing a tantrum in his office. With Taylor dead, the lead was cut off. In frustration, Loki knocked everything off his desk, but a photo caught his eye. It showed a mummified corpse found in a cellar wearing a maze necklace identical to the maze drawings Taylor made. Could there be a connection between these two men? Was the corpse case linked to the girl's kidnapping? Just then, Loki's colleagues from the forensic department called again. They had found two human-like models with smashed heads in Taylor's yard. Also, tests showed the bloodstains on the children's clothes weren't human blood, but pig's blood. They found a novel in Taylor's attic about a serial kidnapping case. All evidence suggested Taylor wasn't the murderer, but a sick copycat. But then, how did he have two families' children's clothes? Loki suddenly recalled Keller's earlier police report claiming an intruder came to his house. If the intruder was Taylor and he was stealing clothes, this would make sense. Thinking this through, Loki rushed to Keller's home and indeed found Taylor's footprints in the yard, along with a matching sock. Taylor, who had shot himself, was not the real culprit. So who was the true kidnapper? Just as Loki's investigation stalled, Keller's side made a major breakthrough. The neighbor's daughter was found. She had escaped and returned home. She was sent to the hospital for checks and told Keller that the place where they were imprisoned was somewhere Keller had visited before, because she had heard Keller's voice. Upon hearing this, Keller suddenly understood. Besides his own old house, he had only visited Alex's aunt's house recently. Confirming this, Keller hurriedly left the hospital and drove to Alex's aunt's home. Loki, who came to the hospital after hearing the news, only saw Keller's departing back. He thought Keller had gone to his old house again. After confirming the escaped girl was safe, Loki rushed to the old house to look for Keller but didn't find him. Only Alex, imprisoned there. At this moment, Keller had already arrived at Alex's aunt's home again. But as soon as he entered, the aunt pulled out a pistol, showing her hostile intentions. She threatened Keller to put on handcuffs and then forced him to drink a full bottle of a potion, which her husband specially made for children. Taking an overdose of the potion would make a person become as foolish and dazed as Alex. Once Keller was completely under her control, the old lady finally revealed the whole truth. Ever since their son died of illness, the couple's faith was shattered. They felt they had been devoted, yet God had abandoned them. So they began to abduct many children as part of their war on God to avenge their son's death. Alex was not their nephew at all, but another child they had kidnapped. The woman had even forgotten the child's real name. Ever since, the couple used Alex as bait to kidnap other children. They tricked the poor kids into playing a maze game, telling them they could leave once they found the way out. The already deceased Taylor was one of those victims they abducted. After escaping the maze, a panicked and mentally broken Taylor started imitating the kidnapper to cope with his trauma. As she spoke, the old lady took Keller outside and shot him in the thigh, threatening him to jump into the cellar in the yard. She told him her daughter Anna was inside. Desperate, Keller jumped in. But there was no daughter, only a red whistle left by the girls. Then the old lady cruelly said she was going to kill Anna now, so that father and daughter could be reunited. She covered the cellar and drove a car over the entrance to block it. Just as she was about to harm Anna, Loki arrived just in time. Originally, he came to inform the old lady that Alex had been found, but unexpectedly saw a photo of Alex's uncle in the room, wearing the maze necklace. Loki suddenly understood a key point. The man imprisoned and killed by the priest was the old lady's husband who had run away 5 years ago. His confessions to the priest were probably true. Loki immediately drew his gun and searched the house, just in time to catch the old lady injecting Anna with medicine. Loki shot and killed her but was grazed on the head by her bullet. Ignoring his injury, Loki hurriedly carried the unconscious girl to the car and rushed her to the hospital. After emergency treatment, Anna recovered, and Loki's head wound was not serious. But now there was a new problem. Keller was missing. At first, Loki thought Keller fled in fear of illegal detention charges. Several days later, one night, Loki was at the murderer's yard supervising the excavation of victims' remains. As the work ended and Loki was about to leave, faint, intermittent whistling suddenly sounded by his ear. The movie ends here. While some fans may be frustrated by the ambiguous ending, the final 30 seconds of the movie are actually brilliant. Although we don't see Keller rescued with Loki's intelligence, it's believed he will soon find him and complete the last piece of this complex case. Prisoners is a superb hard-boiled suspense film. Though the plot and relationships are complicated, the pacing is smooth and engrossing. The story unfolds layer by layer, gradually revealing every mystery in a satisfying way. Beyond its compelling story, the title Prisoners holds a deeper meaning. It doesn't just refer to the kidnapped girls, the intellectually disabled suspect, the killer confessing to a priest, or the protagonist uncovering the truth. It also reflects how most characters are trapped in their own minds. The once devout couple trapped in grief over losing their son eventually turn to crime. The desperate father trying to save his daughter becomes trapped in his anxious emotions, committing illegal detention. Even the other main character, Loki, is trapped by sudden rage and a baffling mystery. The whole story is like a huge maze trapping everyone inside, victims, perpetrators, and even those pretending to be police. A single moment's choice can mean life or death.